This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Dr. Kelly Whitehair, a dietitian with Kansas State University, joins us. And Dr. Whitehair, you were part of the Farm Food Tour Dive into Science that recently took place. What was the goal of the tour?
Well, the goal of the tour was to help educate both dietitians as well as food bloggers on where our food really comes from. I think they see us as the influencers. We're the ones that kind of go between the food and the consumer, and we're providing all that insight when people have those odd questions about food or those hesitations about where their food comes from. And so they were trying to give us a little bit of behind-the-scenes viewpoint of it all.
And really to talk about so many things on addressed how and why the food that we raise is safe.
Yes. Very much so.
Where did you go as far as the tour stops were concerned?
Well, we started in Kansas City at Elanco Animal Health, and we learned a little bit about antibiotics and hormones and some of the research being done there. We then road tripped across the state to the St. Louis area and got to spend a day at Monsanto. Saw tours. We got to speak with a lot of their employees, both researchers, people working on vegetable seeds, dietitians, you name it, we got to talk to them. And then we stopped on our way back at Central Missouri Meat and Sausage and got a tour of their processing facility as well as some tasting of some great products.
The discussion that you heard along that trip as well, did it open some of those eyes up of the registered dietitians and online influencers?
Yes, very much so. A lot of us grew up on farms, but we weren't the farmers. We weren't the ones actually doing it. So we'd had a little bit of background in it, but it was very different when you start thinking, well, how is it all done now when it comes to hormones and GMOs and all the things that people are asking us about? I feel like I'm a little bit more educated now and I can answer on a more science-based level, I guess.
Kansas Soybean Commission, one of the groups that put this tour together. How important is it for groups like Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Farm Bureau, and Kansas Pork Association to have tours like this?
I think they're amazing. I can't imagine not going on this. I've been lucky enough to go on 2 separate educational tours with them, and I've learned something each time. I think it's important also because I work with students. So I'm working here at K-State with students both in the classroom as well as those that live in the dining centers and eat here. And I feel like I can just share my information with them now. So they might say something about a product. I'm like, oh, guess what? That was just raised up the road. And I can talk to them a little bit more on a different level, I guess. And I'm not sure I could do that if it weren't for situations like this, because you can only learn so much off the web and off the news and out of a textbook. So these hands-on experiences are really important.
That's Dr. Kelly Whitehair, a dietitian with Kansas State University, who joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay with us after the break for more with Dwayne Taves and Robert White with the Renewable Fuels Association.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.